We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president.
Okay, we're starting. They just did the intro. I can go back to it if you want to. I don't want to be too far behind, though. So we got a chat in the corner. You guys want to watch that? Welcome to No One 2024. I've never done this before, so enjoy the show. I will be fact-checking every lie that I can throughout the broadcast, however long that takes. Hope it doesn't take too long. But yeah, we just started it. It's in Atlanta, CNN. Here we go.
As their party's presumptive...
Also, I'm nervous. Okay.
nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
And you'll know how great CNN is and how much we love CNN at this channel. And this is a series that I'm going to do for every single one of these suckers. So strap in. I'm trying to make the volume a little bit lower because it is kind of high for me. I don't know if it's high for you, but let's try that.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN.
Oh, and I forgot to do this. We are watching this in... See, I was wanting to watch this in 1.5 speed. And if I'm far enough behind, we might be able to do that. But we might not be able to, so... Let's try, and I'll just like vamp a little bit, and then we'll do that. Plus, I'm not really concerned about the chat. This, by the way, the stream that I'm watching this is from 9 News from Denver, Colorado. Shout out to Denver. So all copyright to them. Copyright? I shouldn't say that word because it's probably gonna get flagged now. Damn it. Well, anyway, this is fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. I will be doing commentary, reacting, and responding live to it. So let's do our best. And we'll probably get rid of the chat at some point because it just is too distracting for me. Here we go.
CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch.
A pivotal moment. Okay.
For the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determines their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, props, or content.
Isn't that convenient? Wait, I should do it in the right thing. Isn't that convenient? I've been watching a lot of former SNL episodes from earlier seasons.
Staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
I'm already laughing. I can't help it. Let's do 1.25. We don't want to do them too dirty. I'm sure it's not going to be too bad on one side, but he is the slowest motherfucker.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
This is already feeling like a shit show. Let's enjoy. Oh yeah, No One 2024. No one. Not one of these motherfuckers.
Gentlemen,
the music is really trying, but it's trying my patience as well.
Thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the
Palestine? No, just kidding.
Economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
Oh my gosh, did you see his face? We must go back. That was hilarious.
Say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump.
Oh, he is looking so out of it tonight. This is going to be fun.
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach in your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment.
Okay, we got our first lie of the night. Let's do the inject bleach thing. I used to have this fucking video because it comes up so much. Let me get it. God dang it. They're already working me. It's so rude.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number in the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. The new headline is Trump asks people to go outside. That's dangerous. Here we go. Same old group. You ready? I hope people enjoy the sun. And if it has an impact, that's great. I'm just hearing this, not really for the first time. I mean, there's been a rumor that, you know, a very nice rumor that you go outside in the sun or you have heat and it does have an effect on other viruses. But now we get it from one of the great laboratories of the world, I have to say. It covers a lot more territory than just this. This is probably an easy thing, relatively speaking, for you. I would like you to speak to the medical doctors to see if there's any way that you can apply light and heat to cure, you know, if you could. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor, but I'm like a person that has a good, you know what.
Sir, you're the president.
Deborah.
Okay, so where did he say bleach? There we go.
Rate rose to 50.
That's all. Like, I'm gonna be doing this all night. They're gonna keep me fucking busy. I'm gonna get a hand cramp. Let's keep going.
50%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do was try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs, and we brought out in a position where...
Okay, now I gotta check that, because goddamn, are we kidding me right now? Come on, stop it. I hate this. And that's not true. I do know that's not true, because we had the shutdowns. So a lot of jobs came back. So you didn't create new jobs, they came back. Fact sheet from them, not gonna happen. Let's try a different one. Oh, that's weird, because he said 15,000. I think he meant 15 million. Wait a second. Is that what he said?
back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs, and we brought out another...
That's not that many. Was he trying to say 15 million? Because I do have 15 million in here. Oh, that's a major blunder. Hold on, let me look at this. From their own ears? Their own statement? Yeah, it says 15 million jobs since I took office. He didn't even say that right. I guess that is a lie then, because it's not even what he said originally. Oh, wow. All right, well, there you go. Let's keep going.
Position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to
And
be.
again, it's not true because COVID, the rules that were happening at the time, the shutdowns that were happening, put a lot of people out of work, and then they all started working around the same time. So that's not necessarily true.
Done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come from households where the kitchen tables and things weren't able to be met during the month. It was a problem.
Sorry, I'm just accidentally
Price of
doing
eggs,
that.
the price of gas, the price of
Scooch.
housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination of what's left of the corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we have a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people. The $15 for an insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with
Citation needed.
COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things.
Okay, no wars. He said the thing. I believe he had more drone strikes than the previous regime in Afghanistan, Iraq, and whatnot. Hold on. I don't like this. This one's not a fact check, really. Let's try this. Okay, we'll do this. Hold on. Here it goes. If we consider the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, the war in Afghanistan, and the Iraq War, Trump joins Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, John F. Kennedy, and Dwight D. Eisenhower in not having officially brought the U.S. into a new war since 1945. If we consider these 5 wars as well as other military operations listed above, the presidents who have not started a new war or been involved in escalating or starting a new military operation would include Trump. If we consider action in Syria an extension to the Obama administration's presence, which I do not, but whatever. Claim has been explored by USA Today, who also found Trump was not alone in not bringing the country into new wars. So he does say that. It's not true, but also it's nitpicking. I'm nitpicking a little bit because no new wars. But you're not an anti-war president by any means, because it was literally Mike Pompeo who was going after Julian Assange and threatening to kill him, to have him killed. So I would say that's not completely true. And there's the Yemen raid. And there's the Syria airstrike. So you could say you didn't start any new wars, you're correct, but you can't say that shit wasn't escalating, because it was, and there were more drone strikes as you went on in that regime.
So everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that
Everything was rocking good? I've never heard that phrase. Wow.
COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country, but
You created the... Okay. This is irrelevant because it's not being mentioned. But he was behind Operation Warp Speed, which provided the not vaccines in the traditional sense. Don't get on me, Google. But they are gene therapy drugs as seen in the documents from Pfizer and Moderna. So if you want to be mad at that being... at it being called that, go to them and the FDA. I don't want to hear it because that's what the hell they called them in their own documents. So I'm just saying he brought that to us, which was a military operation also, like very militaristic kind of stuff happening with that development. The DOD was involved in the... How do I say this without getting in trouble? Well, we know the DTRA's role. DTRA was involved in not only the development of that, but also the lead up to needing that. So problem, reaction, solution right there. So that's just what I want to say about that. He was not great on the COVID issue. He was not worse than the other guy, but he was not better either. They both fucking suck. Which is why I am no one 2024. Join me, thank you.
than that we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Is he sleeping? It looks like he's sleeping. I know he's not, but it does look like it. And we already did the fact check on the jobs. He didn't even say the right number. And, you know, to recap, it was bounce back jobs. I would say that that's a good way to put it. It was when the jobs were available again. But again, the shutdown happened during, you know who. In March 2020 is when I lost my job for a good amount of time. At least 2 years. It might have been 3. I don't even remember. It was so long ago, but I'll never forget. Never forget how we were treated during that period. It was not fun.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks we have the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in anyone.
He just fucking nodded his head when he said that. I mean, that's gonna get so many more people to like him. Like, I feel like he is on a likability tour, whereas the other one's just trying to stay awake at this point. But the more the other guy talks, the more Trump talks, the more people like him. And the opposite is happening, I think, with the other guy. And that's on purpose, because it's all fucking smoke and mirrors. It's all fake. They probably, you know, fuck each other's wives or whatever they do, you know, with the elites or whatever. Allegedly. They probably have parties together, or go to parties and see each other, and they're cordial and everything, and it's whatever. There's just this fake divide going on, and they all are making money off of us, or profiting off our pain. So it's all the same, whether it's a red or blue tie. They're still tying you together. They're still keeping us tied, is what I was trying to say. Tied and bound to some political ideology that doesn't matter. And also none of this matters. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, basically, this dude's gonna win. You don't even have to see the debate. It's pretty obvious one of them can't even remember figures correctly and do their job correctly or stay upright sometimes. I don't know. It's a shit show. But here we go. Let's keep going.
One term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that would...
To be honest, I don't even want to fact check that, because I'm kind of over the job thing. It's kind of boring, and I'm past it. And it's such a thing to say. Like, it's such an easy thing to, like, come up with. Like, oh, this, that, and the other with the jobs. Jobs, the thing is, many people who are unemployed don't even apply for unemployment. So it's a moot point anyway, and I don't want to spend too long fact-checking that. So don't give me shit for it. But the job thing is hard to calculate.
Was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we still found ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country.
Who continued in Afghanistan? That was your dude during your administration. That was fucking Obama. So you're going after Obama now because he didn't stop the war, which he said he was going to do. So let's, like, be honest about that. Like, he's no better than Trump because he continued that shit, and then you continued everything. Shut up.
Truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
That is complete and utter bullshit. We know that not to be true. People are dying right now as we speak, I'm sure. And he doesn't even believe it. Look at his face. How many? Okay, hold on. God damn it. American soldier. We'll just say that. I don't know any of these. Let me go somewhere else. I guess we'll go to Statista for this. Alright, let's see here. Expand. I'm not getting anything from that. Okay, here's something. Okay, this is in January. Alone. Jordan. They died in Jordan. 3 people. Ignored. 3 soldiers ignored by the president right there. Unless he means this month. I don't think that works.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
You want to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned,
I would disagree with that. I'm pretty sure other administrations were worse with inflation. I guess we can look that up. Oh, fucking hell. So many lies. Worst inflation. here we go. This is another point. How much control does the president really have over inflation? They're all puppets, so probably not much. Alright, here we go. We got a whole fucking chart here. It's Carter. I was gonna say it was Carter. I didn't know exactly if I should say it because I watched the SNL and the inflation was insane there. But yeah, it's Carter. Right there. Biden is number 3, so not true. Let's move on.
I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8...
I'm pretty sure it's not the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life. I don't know how you would quantify, how you would find that to be, like what you could define that as, because that's very subjective. But I'm sure that's not true. That's obviously hyperbole.
years under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt.
Oh, we're fact-checking now? Now we're fact-checking. We couldn't fact-check in the very beginning with all the lies that were happening, but now we're doing it. Oh, look at his face. I was so perfect with that shot. Wow. Like, we gotta just screenshot that. Should I screenshot it? I'll screenshot it. Fuck it. I forgot how to screenshot, though. One moment. Oh, there we go. Got him. Okay. Just the face, though. I'm just gonna get the face. I'm gonna want to put that somewhere. Alright. I don't know if you heard that, but I definitely just screenshot that. What the fuck?
Former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it.
And why was that? Maybe, was it, I don't know, the gene therapy? I'm just putting it out there. It could have been a factor, and all the booster things that you would have to inject yourself with. It's just a thought, you know, that it did kind of, it kind of like kept it going a little bit longer, so you gotta wonder, just things you gotta wonder. Yeah, that's what I have to add to that. You didn't help matters, and it was not solved under you.
Thing which a lot of people don't like to talk about, but he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out, he did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine, and he did a very poor job.
He said Maxine, okay, guys, he said Maxine.
It's a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leader.
When the hell were we?
They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation. Between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden.
Don't get ahead of the schedule.
I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one.
Hold on a second. We gotta fact check it. What did he say? National. Largest. National debt. Thank you, Investopedia. We're at 33.99 trillion as of January 2024. No, who had a one term though? Because he said. Hold on, let me do that. They say Franklin Roosevelt. Did he have two terms? I'm stupid. I'll check. I'm dumb. It was before my time. Yeah, he had 2 terms. Okay, so who's this other dude? Okay, Woodrow Wilson. That guy did not have a good time. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Alright, we got Wilson, Reagan. Let's try Reagan. Reagan, I know, had... Okay, so George W. Bush is... He's also 2 terms. George H.W. Bush. Okay, so I believe that Reagan had 2 terms. But I'm stupid. I might not be right. Yes, he had 2 terms. And... I know George W. Bush had 2 terms, sadly. Barack Obama had 2 terms. So I'm going to say that's bullshit. And it's right here and here on this website. Shit. I can't get rid of that. I hate when that happens. Okay, so George H.W. Bush had 42.3% debt. So he was... he was 1 person above Donald. So Donald is after him. So George H.W. Bush, who had 1 term, if I recall. I hope I'm right. I don't know anything. Yes, okay, good. He only had 1 term. And he was he was above Richard Nixon. So yeah, that's not true. So I fact checked that, and probably no one else will, so there you go. Let me go back.
Question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number 2.
Bullshit.
He got $2 trillion tax cut, benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening?
Whichever one.
They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars.
Sorry, I had to scooch something.
Period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system.
We need a little elder care here, don't we? Oh my gosh.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look.
Oh my gosh. We're watching him implode. Oh my gosh. This is just sad at this point.
If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
We finally beat Medicare. He really just said that. Hold on a second. Let's relive that moment.
Dealing with everything we have to do with. Look. If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
How can he just be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Next question. That's not normal. Wow. It almost feels like I shouldn't even fact check, because what's the point? Because this is a moot point, because this dude is done.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare. because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way.
How stupid does it sound for him to be making accusations about what he will do when he can't even string a sentence together? Come on, this is a joke, guys. It's clown show material.
He finished that sentence, and it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, that each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women.
Don't judge me, I have to.
Who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in there. They talk about that. But here's the deal. There's a lot of young women being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters. It's just ridiculous. And they can do nothing.
Didn't he just say, I don't think he was listening. He just said that he made exceptions for that. I'm confused. No, he's confused.
About it. And they try to arrest him when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how.
I'm gonna get rid of the CC because I don't think it's gonna work at this level. Look at him; it's insane. And that way we can really focus what they're saying on what they're saying. And I need to go back, I'll reread it or whatever. I'll read it to you. But like, this is insane. Like, and they keep acting like this is normal. Like, this is crazy. Look at him. Oh, I gotta do another one. Sorry. God damn. Oops. I accidentally went to the end. My bad. Now we gotta find out where the fuck we were.
Including hundreds of thousands of people dying, and open up our country to people that are from prisons.
Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation.
The most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our states and voting.
Set on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you
Sorry about that.
support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I support Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor.
Oh yeah, we
second
wanted
time,
to get that. I wanted to get that.
It's the
Hold
same
on.
topic.
Let me get that
Staying on the
picture
topic
again.
of abortion, President Biden, 7 states. I'll let you do that.
There it goes. I got it. This is very important. Do, 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 do.
This is the same topic.
I gotta have my thumbnails, guys.
7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I support Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician is making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only a woman's life is in danger. She's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy was very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board, at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President
One
Biden.
moment. Just gotta do something. All right. Limits on congressional authority. The Constitution establishes a system of dual sovereignty between the states and the federal government. States generally have broad authority to enact a legislation on matters related to the health and general welfare of its citizens. In this vein, the Supreme Court has recognized that there are certain subjects, often of local concern, which states historically have been sovereign, such as issues related to the family, crime, and education. The state's broad authority is subject only to limitations imposed by the Supremacy Clause, which makes federal law the supreme law of the land, and prohibits states from contravening the Constitution or lawful congressional enactments. In contrast, Congress may only enact legislation under a specific power enumerated in the Constitution and cannot act beyond the scope of its powers to intrude impermissibly on state sovereignty. In addition, under the anti-commandeering doctrine, Congress may not pass laws requiring states or localities to adopt or enforce federal policies. While Congress cannot force the states to execute federal policies under the Supremacy Clause, it can preempt state laws and thus prevent the states from undermining federal policy. Should Congress choose to legislate on abortion-related matters, its action must be appropriate and plainly adapted to the exercise of an enumerated power and in accordance with the foregoing federalism limitations as well as other constitutional constraints on the exercise of its legislative powers. While several constitutional authorities may support action on abortion-related matters in more specific circumstances, for example, regulation of abortion in federal enclaves such as the District of Columbia, the Commerce Clause, spending power, and Section 5 of the 14th Amendment are three potentially relevant enumerated powers that Congress could rely on in enacting more general federal legislation related to abortion. And there's more in here about that if you are interested in learning more. I will leave that for you from the Congressional Research Service. All right, let's get back to it.
Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch, overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, but made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure that the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done.
That was actually your guy. Let's get that information here. Was hoping that would come up. I did not write that correctly. Yeah, you know what I meant. So the kids in cages is an Obama thing. They did that. So just don't bring up the cages thing, because you don't want to fuck that up. Alright, let's get back to it. That comes up a lot.
Since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. It's better when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more...
Total ban? What the fuck? What was he trying to say?
Asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence.
No, neither do I, dude. Neither do I. None of us do. He doesn't. No one does.
I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the same...
Oh, that's going to be a fucking clip that they're going to use. Oh, dear. He's just imploding on purpose, I swear.
Safest border in the history of our country. All he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation, because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you, President
caravans.
Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything across the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person who came in his administration, killed three
What?
American soldiers, killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorists ever got through. The idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying, and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and he just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taking place.
Okay, I'm gonna just go back here. Let's look it up. He keeps bringing it up. I'm gonna look it up. Hold on. So many really biased sources here. All right, let's see what they source. All right, this guy. Okay, most research finds that all immigrants in the United States are less likely to commit crime or be incarcerated than native-born Americans. I don't know what Cato is. It doesn't sound like super legit to me. I guess we'll do this one, sure. Truth Out's usually the right. Unless they've changed. This isn't racism, this is xenophobia. Okay, they cite this. Let's look at this. Here's what they cite from 2020. That's not quite very recent, is it? Is this from 2020? No. I don't know why they're citing something from 2020 and 2024. Let's try this. NBC News. Alright, let's see what they cite. It's a poll. Well, that's pretty subjective. Okay. An NBC News review of available 2024 crime data from the cities targeted by Texas Operation Lone Star, which buses or flies migrants from the border to major cities in the interior, shows overall crime levels dropping in those cities that have received the most migrants. Overall crime is down year over year in Philadelphia, Chicago, Denver, New York, and LA. Crime has risen in Washington, D.C., but local officials do not attribute the spike to migrants. This is a public perception problem. It's always based upon these kinds of flashpoint events where an immigrant commits a crime. Okay. At least a couple of recent studies show that undocumented immigrants are also not more likely to be involved in crime, says this person. You know what? I think it is hyperbolic. It's not that. It's just little pockets. It's kind of like what they do with the Black Lives Matter campaign. The whole everybody is being pulled over and treated like shit and killed by cops because of some incidents involving that. It gets politicized that way. And this is similar to that, I think. This is like the right-wing version of that.
Taken place in our country. We're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't.
I don't think they're living in luxury hotels. Not in LA. I can say from experience in LA, they're not living in luxury in LA. I don't know. Just for LA. I don't know about New York.
They care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since they passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange.
Hold on a second. Okay. Millions of veterans are now eligible for VA healthcare up to 8 years earlier than written into law. It's one of the largest ever expansions. God damn it. Let me read the PACT Act. Okay, it will bring these changes. Expands and extends eligibility for VA healthcare for veterans with toxic exposures. Adds 20 plus more presumptive conditions for burn pits, adds more presumptive exposure locations for Agent Orange and radiation, requires the VA to provide a toxic exposure screening to every veteran enrolled in VA healthcare. Alright, what does it mean? Am I eligible for VA healthcare under the PACT Act? If you served in the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, or any other combat zone after a 9/11, or you deployed in support of the global war on terror, or you were, when is that one ending, by the way? You were exposed to toxins or other hazards during military service at home or abroad. So he's insinuating that there are millions of people who have been a part of this, who have been hurt this way. I don't think that's the brag that you think it is, who have been exposed to toxic things. That's kind of fucked up, to be honest. Let's move on.
Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general.
Whichever one, right?
And he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, he's not a sucker. You're the sucker, you're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say...
Hold on, let me look at... let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Suckers and losers. I'm sure there's video of it. Let's see here. Oh. I guess we'll go to Indian Express. What the heck? Didn't expect that. Oh, okay. Remarks from the Atlantic, which is the original publication he was referring to, are anonymously attributed but corroborated. 5 of the quotations in the Biden campaign were reported in the Atlantic in 2020. The article begins with an account of Trump's decision during a 2018 trip to France to forego a planned visit to the, I'm not pronouncing that, American cemetery where U.S. soldiers are buried. At the time, Trump and his aides said that rain had necessitated canceling the helicopter ride to the cemetery, but his absence was criticized at home and abroad. But according to the Atlantic, that was not true. Rather, Trump was worried that the weather would mess up his hair and did not think the trip was important. The Atlantic reported that in private conversations, Trump had said, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers," and called the soldiers buried there suckers for being killed. The Atlantic also reported that while standing by the grave of Robert Kelly, John Kelly's son, who was killed in action in Afghanistan in 2010, Trump had asked, "I don't get it. What was in it for them?" And according to the Atlantic, after receiving a briefing from General Joseph F. Dunford Jr., then the chair of the Joint Chiefs, Trump also asked aides, "That guy is smart. Why did he join the military?" Lastly, the Atlantic reported that when Senator John McCain, one of Trump's few Republican critics, died in 2018, Trump said, "We are not going to support that loser's funeral." The Washington Post and Jennifer Griffin, the chief national security reporter for Fox News, confirmed that Trump had privately disparaged veterans and soldiers. The Post reported that Trump had called people who served in the Vietnam War losers, while Griffin reported that Trump used the term sucker and asked what's in it for them. John R. Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, told the Times that he did not personally hear Trump use those words on the 2018 trip, but that the reported comments were not out of character. A Democratic member, this part says a Democratic member of Congress quotation has also been corroborated. The Biden campaign ad also includes one remark from Representative Frederica S. Wilson from Florida, who's a Democrat. How convenient. In October 2017, Trump spoke on the phone with the widow of Army Sergeant La David T. Johnson, who was killed in Nigeria. According to Wilson, who was accompanying the widow, he said to Maisha Johnson, I guess he knew what he was signing up for, but it still hurts." The Biden ad omitted the second part of that quote, Trump's attempt at empathizing with the widow, "but it still hurts." Trump also denied making this remark and claimed he had proof. His press secretary at the time said that the call was not recorded but confirmed his account. But Johnson soon corroborated Wilson's account and said that Trump's condolence call made her angry and upset her even more, especially as he struggled to remember her husband's name. La David T. Johnson's mother also backed up Wilson's account. So basically, yeah, there's just no way of knowing what's right or wrong there. So let's keep going, I guess.
Hey, I'm at a cemetery, or I'm talking about our veterans, because nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Four-star General Standing Aside was on your staff and said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. and they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right, thank you so much.
The topic of foreign policy, I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible, embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration.
We're going to fact check that. Thank you. Appreciate that. I know that's not true, but I'm going to do it anyway. Hey, that's a good website to go to, I guess. Alright, this is from Washington Post, not the greatest source. Let's continue. Alright, thanks for doing some research. Oh, that's not what we wanted. My bad. Hold on. Alright, so we have like the medical thing, PubMed here, NIH. We don't like them any more than anyone else, but you know, at least they do studies and shit. Some of them better than others. Let's see here. What can I do with this? Consistent with the political threat hypothesis, our findings indicate that the re-election of President Obama was associated with a gradual, permanent increase in the frequency of attacks by See, that's not what I'm looking for. They're giving me right-wing terrorist attacks. That's not what I'm saying, like, anything at all. Let's do Newsweek. Fuck it. I'll try that. Okay, the claim. I believe. Okay, it's inaccurate. It says in 2023, Saifullo Saipov, 34, of Uzbekistan, was sentenced to 8 consecutive life sentences, 2 concurrent life sentences, and a consecutive sentence of 260 years in prison for carrying out a terrorist attack on October 31st, 2017 in New York, killing 8 people and injuring more. Described as the worst terror attack in New York since 9/11. I haven't heard of it, but alright. Saipov was shot and captured after he rammed bicyclists along a popular bike path that overlooks the Hudson River in lower Manhattan. A DOJ release that accompanied the sentencing said he carried out the attack in the name of ISIS. Trump made several comments about the attack in the days that followed, referring to him as a terrorist and arguing that he should receive the death penalty. And then he was convicted. Okay, then there's a white supremacist in March 2018. And in 2019, El Paso, Walmart. Yeah, so basically, yeah, not true. Which I figured. He was president during a terror attack in New York on October 2017. In October 2017, in which Saifullah 34 killed 8 people in the name of ISIS. He was also president when 30-year-old James Harris Jackson killed 66-year-old Timothy Kaufman. Jackson pled guilty in 2019 to first-degree murder in furtherance of an act of terrorism. So not true. So he's not telling the truth there.
The whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
Never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. But he didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that era. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did. Putin encouraged him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that. I have no idea what it means, but I'm gonna try and fact check that. Putin to Trump do whatever. No idea what that means, but let's continue. Oh, does he mean Trump? I need him to... Hold on, what? Hold on a second.
Trump, do whatever you want. And do whatever. Look at what Trump Afghanistan during that era. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want, and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did. Putin encouraged him, do whatever you want. And he went in. Look.
I think he's confused. Because it said that Trump said that he could do whatever he wanted. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Wow. I don't think that's what he meant. At all. That's embarrassing. Oh, maybe it's here. Ooh, we have a clip.
Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, do whatever the hell you want.
Okay, see? He knew what that meant before. But he got that fucked up here. That didn't make any sense. He got them confused. Let's move on.
Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops. 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never said that.
For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking...
I mean, he is correct there. Come on now.
anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed.
Let's see if that happens.
So needlessly, so stupidly. And I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
You know,
Biden, you have a minute.
the fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people.
Bitch, so are you. But both of them are war criminals. Are we really going there? Let's go there. Okay, sure. Trump's a war criminal. We've already gone over that, but let's do a reminder. I don't really want to go to them because they were kind of lame before. I guess we could go to them, sure. See, I hate fucking paywalls, man. If you hear anything in the background, I live in Hollywood and people are coming out to play apparently. So that's nice. Let's go to Quora. I can't with these people. Let's go to, let me be more specific. For some reason I can't find, well, here we go. May have bombed Yemen more than Bush and Obama. Yeah, the Yemen raid was in 2017 and it was a war crime. And then we have, here we go. Oh wait. See if anyone will say. Let's go to Middle East Monitor. It's an opinion piece. See if they have any data. Let's see here. It's so hard to get real information about this. At least for the Israeli crap, he's a war criminal, but there's other stuff too. It's hard to put that, you know, there's not a whole lot of sources for that, so let's continue. They are all war criminals though. They have all done war crimes. And they don't get prosecuted because we don't prosecute war criminals in this country. You prosecute Australian citizens for exposing war crimes. Let's move on.
And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine from weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why it's...
At this point.
That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds...
Out of nowhere. It just happened out of nowhere. We couldn't have ever predicted that that would happen. It's not like there were settlements way before that. And also funding and funding of that terrorist organization by the terrorist state of Israel run by Benjamin Netanyahu.
Of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council, straight through the G7, to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones saying that. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're kind of sitting on...
I'm calling bullshit on that as the plane comes by. Let's see. Hamas proposal. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Look at that. What? Huh? How'd that happen? Hamas, which Biden said received the proposal from Qatar, released a statement reacting positively. Let's read that statement, shall we? This is May 31st. Palestinian Islamist group Hamas on Friday said it had a positive view of the contents of a 3-phase ceasefire proposal announced by U.S. President Joe Biden for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas confirms its readiness to deal positively and in a constructive manner with any proposal that is based on the permanent ceasefire and the full withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip, the reconstruction of Gaza, and the return of the displaced to their places, along with the fulfillment of a genuine prisoner swap deal if the occupation clearly announces its commitment to such deal. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said that Israel had authorized negotiators to present a Gaza truce deal after Biden revealed details of the ceasefire plan. Now, what happened with that? What the fuck happened with that, though? What? Huh? Hold up. Sorry about your ears. Let me go down.
השלב העצים של המלחמה בחמאס עומד להסתיים. זה עומד להסתיים. זה לא עומד להסתיים, אבל המלחמה בשלב העצים שלה עומדת להסתיים ברפיח. זה נכון. אנחנו נמשיך אחר כך בכיסוח הדשא. לא נוותר. אגב, אתם רואים את זה. אתמול כמעט, יכול להיות שחיסלנו, אנחנו עדיין לא יודעים, מספר 4 בחמאס, אנחנו מכים בהם ומכים בהם בעוצמה. אבל אחרי סיום השלב העצים, תהיה לנו אפשרות להעתיק חלק מהכוח צפון. ואנחנו נעשה את זה, קודם כל למטרות הגנה, ושנית, כדי להחזיר גם את התושבים שלנו הביתה. אם נוכל, נעשה את זה בדרך מדינית, אם לא, נעשה את זה בדרך אחרת.
Netanyahu says he won't agree to a deal that ends the war in Gaza, testing the latest truce proposal. This is literally from June 24th, 2024. So it was a couple of days ago. And they did not deviate dramatically from what he has said previously about his terms for a deal, but they come at a sensitive time as Israel and Hamas appear to be moving further apart over the latest ceasefire proposal, and they could represent another setback for mediators trying to end the war. So this is bullshit, what he just said. Complete and utter bullshit. And he should be called out on it, but he probably won't be.
The only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown kind of ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so they're two different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how we can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas. Greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Let's go back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all, you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them, as far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish his job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have...
See, those people who think that either one of these fuckers is going to do anything good are full of shit. Because they both, for this war, they like it. They're Zionists. Fucking Trump is a Zionist. Don't be surprised. He's going to continue the quote-unquote genocide. It will be just another thing that he continues. It's not a big deal to him. And they don't care because they're not involved. They're not directly involved in the conflict, so why do they give a shit? They can just sit up in their house. They don't have to look at it every day. Out of sight, out of mind. That's all that matters. You know, it's just like, this dude blew up fucked up this war, and this dude fucked up that war. This dude wants to keep the war going. I would have it ended immediately, and all the people would be dead. Like, what the fuck? Which one's better? It's a shit sandwich either way.
You have a minute?
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. There may be a big ocean. If we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe, what happens if, in fact, we have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. It's just what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan.
Wasn't he just talking about Israel? Am I crazy? Was that still Israel and he's going straight to Ukraine?
He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea
because they agree on Israel. I get it.
We have Europe back on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine.
They're both going to lead us to a nuclear war. Don't worry about that. It won't be one or the other. It'll be both.
And then move on to Poland and other places. It's just what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I make great trade deals with the European nations. Because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have. But we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now left at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions in action on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of, in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C., they turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see. I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President.
Hold on, let me check that. Okay. I hate going back into this again, but okay. All right. I will look up Pelosi. I don't know who that is, so I'm gonna go over here. Here we go.
Terry, we did not for what was going on there. And we have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient
No,
resources.
there was not a question of how they don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Well, there you go. From our own fucking lips. Moving on.
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to the Capitol, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours watching, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, he talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll not forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that, no, he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases.
He's breaking again.
Including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He didn't do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones that are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says that he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that there could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there, with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
Hold on a second. Okay, hold on. Let's look that up. Oh great, we have that lovely dog that I live near. Let's see what this says. Okay, so here's the claim. Alright, it says the issue centers on, okay, let's do. Nowhere in the letter does Loudermilk say the recordings were destroyed. There are no reputable news reports that he made that claim, and no evidence of the destruction of the records. Whether the missing information has been destroyed, was sent to other entities, or is still in the possession of members of Congress from the Select Committee is uncertain at this time, Loudermilk said in an email statement to USA Today. Adam Comis, a spokesperson for the Democrats on the House Homeland Security Committee, called the claim in question very much false. Thompson is the ranking member of that panel. So that's according to Loudermilk, whom I assume he's referring to.
The person on this stage is a convicted felon, is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned over statues. The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boy? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing to, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a...
Okay, let's go back to that one, because I do like to go back to that one every once in a while. It's kind of fun. Do. So many things. Huh. Where is this video, though? I'm looking for the video. I'm trying to remember what all it was. Maybe it's in Wikipedia. Fuck it. Let's go there. Sure, they have a video of it. Well, that's not very helpful. I'm just gonna have to use something here. Let me try this.
The impeachment inquiry is also making waves overseas. Ukraine's top prosecutor says he's opening an investigation into the company tied to Hunter Biden. Roxana Saberi reports from Kiev, where President Trump's growing dilemma has put Ukraine's president in the spotlight.
I have seen it before. Oh, maybe this is it.
Chair recognizes Mr. Groffman.
Yeah, we got to. First, Mr. Lynch complained about Mr. Galanis testifying from prison. Press release announcing the sentencing of the Democrats' witness.
Blah, 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 blah.
Convincing.
Here we go.
And so I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, "No," I said, "I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion." They said, "You have no authority. You're not the president." The president said. I said, "Call him." I said, "I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion." I said, "You're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here." And I think it was 6 hours. I looked. I said, "I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money." Oh, son of a bitch! Got fired, and they put in place someone who.
I just wanted to put that up.
Who was, helpful to him, I guess, is what he said. I can't remember exactly the words. But yeah, there it was.
System that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night?
Oh, wow. We're just going straight to that, huh? Whoa. Sex with a porn star. All right. Yeah, that's the same.
While your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about?
That's disgusting, honestly. Like, fucking hell. It's also disgusting that happened. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying, I've never believed, and even going far as, like, Bill Clinton days, yeah, I was a child then, but still, I recognized that the private life, as long as everybody's a consenting adult, between people who are in office, and whatever they've got going on, and he's not the first fucking dude to run out on his wife, definitely not the first, won't be the last, who's a president. That's a long list too. As long as there's nothing illegal going on, then it's okay. The thing about that is the hush money thing. So the fact that he's focusing on the cheating on your wife thing, it's stupid, honestly. It's honestly just dumb.
You get the morals of an alley cat.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
What democracy? Let's move on.
they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming on. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? You ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved around the first place?
Okay, hold on a second. Hitler had good ideas. Hold on a second. I haven't seen that one. Let me look it up. Let's see here. This is from March. It says his former chief of staff. He said, well, but Hitler did some good things. I said, well, what? And he said, well, Hitler rebuilt the economy. But what did he do that rebuilt the economy? He turned it against his own people and against the world. And I said, sir, you can never say anything good about the guy. Nothing. Retired Marine General John Kelly said, that guy again. It's pretty hard to believe he missed the Holocaust, though, and pretty hard to understand how he missed the 400,000 American GIs that were killed in the European theater. Love that word. Kelly said Trump, the Republican Party's presumptive 2024 nominee, admired the loyalty of Nazi leaders and generals to Hitler, aspiring to receive the same loyalty from the U.S. military's highest-ranking officers. He would ask about the loyalty issues and about how, when I pointed out to him the German generals as a group were not loyal to him, and in fact tried to assassinate him a few times, and he didn't know that. He truly believed when he brought us generals in that we would be loyal, that we would do anything he wanted us to do. Sure. He was Joint Chief of Staff, or no, he was his Chief of Staff from July 2017 to January 2019. This is the first time he's spoken publicly about it. Okay, so that was the thing that he said about Trump, what he said about Hitler there.
After my son died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again. Until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic choir they sang back in Germany. And the young woman got kicked. I spoke with the mother, and they asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The ones who got kicked, the one who tried to stop it, and the one who said, I think they're fine people on both sides.
Hold on a second. Let's do something here. This is a lot. They're keeping me busy, man. Okay. I should be done by now, but I'm not. But whatever, it's fine. Charlottesville. Chance. Germany. That's where he got that from. Let's hear it for ourselves. Oh. Request failed. Interesting. Blood and soil. Okay, here we go. God damn, that's so fucking loud. I do apologize. Alright, here we go. Okay, let's look up blood and soil. Huh. You don't say. Let's look up Adolf. Okay. From the propaganda program in 1930 to the policy measures instituted during the years of the Third Reich, the Nazi regime ideologically revered the peasant and glorified his role in German society. The Nazis developed an agricultural policy based on the peasant as the core of their worldview, known as blood and soil. And then you can read more about all of that if you want. I'll leave all the links below. Oh, I've read the Mein Kampf before too, in the Internet Archive. It's quite interesting to see some of the similarities to other literature, but I'll just leave it at that. It's like big groups have big ideas, and sometimes they are not good, and they are really detrimental to society. Also, I wanted to look up the both sides thing. Let's get that clip.
You're putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
On both sides, sir? You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Kill the person. Heather hired
They showed up in Charlottesville
Excuse me.
to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as you, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Okay, so there's the original part there. Okay, let's get back to it.
American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people. This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story's been totally wiped out, because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's, without question, the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
Debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw it with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Damn, we got a commercial. I didn't think we'd have a commercial. All right, let's skip that because we don't have to see it because we started so late.
You'd certainly face again in the second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped...
Let me go back.
Welcome back to the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia. Let's talk about consistent challenges you both faced in your first terms and you'd certainly face again in the second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die for pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs by cutting them in half. We're going to make sure we provide for child care costs. We're going to make sure, because when you provide that child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years and their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled, tripled, and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do was leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 50% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing anything, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is
That makes no sense.
the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat.
Pretty sure it's not.
Intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them.
Hold on a second. We're gonna fact check that one. Cause that was a Hillary thing. And he's like, what? That was Hillary, that wasn't me. But the thing is, I do remember seeing something about that. So let's look it up. Dang it. Hey, let's go to CNN. It was Hillary Clinton. But he did have a hearing. Let's go to that hearing. Because I do know there was a hearing. Oh, I guess we're going to read it. Cool. Love that. Okay, how do I do this where it doesn't look... Hold on, let me find it. It'd help if they showed where it is. That would be too much to ask. Okay. Delinquency. When we talk about the juvenile justice system, we need to put that term into context because Most of the young people that enter that system are not violent at all. Don't get me wrong, the system needs to be reformed to handle serious habitual juvenile defender. Oh wait, here it is. In 1994, there were about 1.5 million juvenile delinquency cases. Less than 10% of those cases involved violent crimes. So when we talk about the juvenile justice system, we have to remember that most of the youth involved in the system are not the so-called super predators. Alright, so there's that. We got that.
And they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But when you see these millions of people pouring into our country and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet, it's a disaster.
38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I passed the most extensive.
Hold on, let me check that. Fucking hell. I don't know how to check that, though. I don't know. Whatever. I don't fucking know. Maybe he's talking about this. I mean, it's just an executive order to fix the water, but I don't think the water was fixed. And in fact, it says here, where does it say it? EWG. Leftover Trump EPA rule leaves millions at risk from lead-tainted tap water. 6 to 10 million lead service lines in use. The revised rule is still too lax because it fails to require full removal of 6 to 10 million lead service lines. So this is kind of like giving the point to Biden. The Trump-era rule requires community water systems by January 2024 to inventory and make public information about all lead service lines in their service areas, as well as plans to replace known and suspected leaded lines. However, the rule allows systems to classify an unlimited number of lines as lead status unknown, thereby avoiding full disclosure. So yeah, basically, you know, he's tooting his own horn a little too much there because he didn't do that much.
Climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $50 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and all that. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing to the environment. He the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius, and then
because it's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. And he knows it's bullshit. Look at his face right there, Trump. Like, it is bullshit. It's money laundering. All this climate shit is money laundering. You can't tackle any of that when you have bombs everywhere, all over the place, just killing indiscriminately and ruining the environment. Like, shut up. You don't get to say anything about the environment if you support wars, you stupid hypocrites.
There's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all.
No, it's war, which does more to destroy the environment than anything else. All the military stuff.
I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools.
Citation needed.
Our hospitals. And they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who are not. We're not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to, the United States can't get it under control? One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We made significant progress, and we continue to make progress. We set up a climate corps where thousands of young people will learn how to deal with them, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay. And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing we'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare, both times. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he supports, is in fact wanting to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And then the ACA, as I said, we're in a circumstance where 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where we talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000.
Fun fact, I got a Pell Grant, not black. I'm just saying. Not just a black thing.
Toward the tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen that he can look you in the face. About so many other things, too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and sucker story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really...
He said the luxury hotel thing again. Let's look that up. I can't. They're fucking killing me here. Wow, Yahoo. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Hundreds of black immigrants assembled peacefully in City Hall Park during a hearing about racial inequities in New York's shelter and immigrant support systems. They gathered there after it became clear that only around 100 people would be allowed into the hearing, the AP reported. The New York Police Department told the AP that no arrests were made in relation to the gathering. Attendees said they came for a variety of reasons, such as to support city council members at the hearing or to see if they could get information about jobs and housing. An AP reporter present at the gathering observed that it was calm and orderly. When asked, immigrants were largely concerned about obtaining authorization to work in the U.S. Some also complained about lack of access to halal food and shelters. Others were worried about being evicted from shelters or had come to support city council members. Here we go. City has spent millions to convert upscale hotels, humble motels, and even office buildings into housing for an influx of migrants. This is from March 23rd, 2023. Interesting. It is one of about 100 hotels and other facilities, from iconic skyscrapers to humble airport motels, that the city has converted into temporary housing for some of the 50,000 migrants who have arrived on buses from the southern border since last spring. The effort may ultimately cost as much as $4 billion over the next 2 years and could result in cuts to city services, the mayor has warned. For migrants, the housing, while at times imperfect, has provided welcome respite as they begin to eke out new lives in a frenetic city. Okay. So they're in office buildings as well as hotels. Alright, again, I'm going to have all the links in there. Stay tuned. So there's that claim.
Really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one who acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, as Ray talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increase and go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border, that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He's the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He's the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't know the exact number, presidential historians. They've had meetings and they voted who was the worst president in American history. One from best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care. He did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have
Thank you,
child
President
care
Biden.
facilities.
President Trump.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Let's look up childcare. Fuck it. I hate this place. I'm tired. Are you guys tired? Because I am tired. Poop. All right. President Trump's child care plan, which he proposed last fall during his campaign for the presidency, seeks to... Wait, so was this during his campaign? Which one was this? What day was this? This doesn't specify what day this was, so let's keep going. I guess we could look at that. Okay, we'll go to CNBC here. Trump budget seeks $1 billion for child care, but experts say that's a drop in the bucket. Oh, okay. Wait, so how much did he okay, hold on. So that was... How much was that? That was, $4.8 trillion budget with $1 billion. Okay, so how much of Biden is it? Alright, so his is historic, eh? His is $500 million increase. 1 billion versus 500 million. And then nearly 40 billion. Okay. Right. Advocates say it's not enough to destabilize the nation's child care system. So both of them have done nothing. Let me get that one back. I forgot to go back there. I need to stay on the page so I can give it to you later. Alright, where were we at here? Here we go. Alright, I'm going to make sure I have all of that stuff for you. Alright, let's get back to it.
The question was about what would you do to make childcare more affordable if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand.
They both suck. What do you know?
We have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I grow up and I see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back.
Hold on. Oh, y'all are killing me here. Stop. Give me a moment. Fuck. Alright, here we go. Senate Finance Committee. Sure, why not? Seems legit. Let me go back. Here we go. Proposed 2024 budget calls for top 39.6% tax rate. Key points. President Joe Biden's budget calls for a top marginal income tax rate of 39.6%, up from 37%. for single filers making more than $400,000 and married couples with income more above $450,000 per year. He is also pushing for a 25% minimum tax on Americans with wealth exceeding $100 million. However, these plans aren't likely to pass in the Republican-controlled House of Representatives. I'm trying to see if there's anything here. Tax rates will increase in 2026. For 2023, top marginal income tax rate of 37% kicks in at $578,126 for single filers and $693,751 for married couples, which is roughly 7% higher than in 2022 due to yearly inflation adjustments from the IRS. Without additional changes by Congress, several provisions from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act will sunset in 2026, bumping the top income tax rate back to 39.6%. The change will also raise the other tax rates, which Biden mentioned in the budget, saying he plans to work with Congress to address the 2025 expirations. Alright, so the tax brackets are right here. 22,000 or less, 10,000, 10% of the taxable income. 22,001 to 89,450, 2,200 plus 12% of amount over 22,000, and it just keeps going. All right, so we got that. That's married. 11,000 or less. Damn, that's not enough to live on, but okay. 10% of the taxable income. 11,001 to 44,725, 1,100 plus 12% of amount over 44,725, etc. So you see what it says. Okay.
Back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two.
Hold on. God damn it. I'm getting annoyed. Thank you, Investopedia. Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and George W. Bush had the biggest budget deficits in U.S. history. Let's look at the information. President Trump continued the trend. Hold on, let's go back. No, that's correct. Okay. Of pushing the deficit higher as he sought massive tax cuts and increased defense spending. His first budget for the 2018 fiscal year recorded a deficit of $779 billion. The deficit reached $984 billion in 2019 under Trump, and it hit more than $1 trillion in 2020 before Congress passed a $2 trillion stimulus package to fight the economic fallout from the corona. Biden's budget deficit. One of President Biden's campaign promises was to reduce the federal deficit. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that the federal budget deficit was $475 billion in the first 5 months of fiscal year 2022, which represented an amount less than the deficits for the same period in years 2021 and 2020. It is less than half the shortfall recorded for the same months of fiscal year 2021, I can't even count that. Never mind. 1 billion plus. And 3/4 of the deficit recorded in 2020, $624 billion, just before the start of the corona. From October 2021 through February 2022, revenues were $371 billion, or 26% higher, and outlays were $201 billion, or 8% lower than they were during the same period a year ago. The CBO reported in November 2022 that the budget deficit for FY 2022 was nearly $1.4 trillion, down from nearly $2.8 trillion in 2021. The marked decline in the deficit from the previous year reflected waning spending in response to the corona and increased revenues driven by higher inflation and the continued recovery of economic activity. They noted that the deficit, though lower than the prior fiscal year, was still higher than originally projected. The agency attributed this in part to programs aimed at student debt forgiveness, and the COVID emergency deferment that was scheduled to end on December 31st, 2022. It was extended until the end of June 2023, and then this would have eliminated the debts of approximately $20 million borrowers, blah, blah, blah. FY 2023 ended with a deficit of $1.7 trillion, a $320 billion increase from the prior year. The budget deficit occurred, okay, we already know all that. Okay, so which U.S. president spent the most? Former presidents George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump ran the largest U.S. deficits in U.S. history. So, bottom line, that's pretty much it. Like, he's sort of correct, but he's not the largest.
We have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come. But he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border where it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery.
I've decided not to I'm just not fact-checking hyperbole anymore. It just takes too long.
You can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues and said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, because this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made a catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly, as soon as I take office, before I take office, I said, by literally, as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases. We paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dan?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized as being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 50 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprise.
You just made up a bunch of numbers, but okay, whatever.
We are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips, we still have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call them, to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President.
All right, I need a moment because I'm in such a state right now that I'm not going to get this out on time. Let's go to... Hey, that's a fun video. Check that out when you get the chance. I'm not going to be able to make this. Y'all going to see me do this live. Watch me do it live. I hope I'm not giving you any information that is important. Because I will not make it on time. This is not going to be on time. Alright. Let's get back to it.
Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he paddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, we sent love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took...
I'm sorry, but look at this fucking thing. Look at this thing. I mean, I don't like him any more than anyone else, obviously. But he's clearly more there than that guy. The one smiling.
I'd like to see him pick one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions, he couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced him. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest now. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
It was a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap. 8. But I have, you know how many...
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's not act like children. President Trump, we're going to turn
let's not act like children.
To a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody, And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
Okay. He ain't driving us anywhere. He can't even drive himself. What are you talking about, Trump? You know that he's not in any control. Nobody's in control. You're not in control. Just give it up.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, a required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done, what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. Because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything. They step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because of our own safety as a state. And again, we want to have a war. Just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv. Make sure they move on. See what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. Not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started, ever, with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked.
President Trump, the question was...
Okay, I'm going to look that up. Hold on. Hold on. Shit. Fucking hell. I don't know. Well, I like that he said that because that means what I'm saying is right. Trump touted what he described as a positive relationship with Putin while claiming that there was nobody tougher than me on Russia. I got along with Putin, let me tell you, I got along with him really well, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Da-da-da. Trump drew criticism, da-da. At a summit in Helsinki in 2018, he said he believed Putin over U.S. intelligence agencies when he said Russia had not meddled in American elections. President Putin says it's not Russia. I don't see any reason why it would be. That's not really what I'm looking for, though. Damn it. I don't even know how to say this. That's just a it's just a statement. Let's move on. He made a statement. Why did I do that? I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
Election, regardless of who wins, yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There's no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something's snapping you in the loss last time.
All right. I hate to do this because it's going to be marred in mainstream bullshit, but fuck. Let's see what I get. Probably not what I want. Here's a voter fraud. Primary election in Iowa. Convicted of 26 counts. Well, if we're not going to get that much, let's do this. This is what I always bring up. From CNN itself.
As we were talking about, a Liz Cheney loss would likely put one more election denier in office. On Monday, the Washington Post reported about a fear among election experts that Georgia is a part of it.
Which called vote more.
These really thrive
The conspiracy.
in themselves. It's because there are vulnerabilities doesn't mean that they were manipulated or exploited in the way that certain parties are saying that they are.
You come over here, we pulled Harry, you've spent the weekend tearing apart voting machines. You've talked a lot about vulnerabilities, but have you ever found evidence that vulnerabilities have been used to change the results of an American election?
Never. And same comes with all the other experts. We have always said that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. We have never seen that kind of evidence.
Vulnerabilities exist in almost all software, regardless of where you find it, even in you know.
Yes, but when you look at that, like, it's gonna be more apparent as technology changes, as we have more hacks and cybersecurity issues and whatnot. So I just think it's something to consider. As for like the election fraud that they were talking about, those cases, I don't know how much of it was legitimate and how much of it was not. So I'm not going to speak on it. I'm just saying there is the possibility. It's stupid to say that there's not. But I just find it truly hard to believe, and I'm sure you do too, that 81 million people voted for that guy. The dude looking so confused right there. I don't think 81 million people voted for him. I don't think more people voted for him than Obama. It just doesn't make sense to me. And he's racist. Like, we know he's racist. Like, he's presented himself as racist. Sorry, he presents as racist. It's a lot. So anyway.
We'll be right back with more
Oh,
from the CNN
good.
presidential
We're done.
debate live.
Thank goodness. Okay. I thought it would be over by now. Silly me.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss.
Fucking finally, man. Fucking finally.
We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that will be the case again. But This guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes in the United States of America. What I did, well, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices.
Oh my gosh. Could you get through a sentence any day?
With the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000
This is embarrassing.
for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now. And
I feel bad for everyone who had to watch this in normal speed. My condolences to you.
everybody in America, he wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. We're going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
I'm sure that wasn't a whole shit show at all. Wow. So that happened. It's going to be a tough road to do this again and again, and I apologize that it's been this long. I did not expect that I would be working this hard tonight, but they did that to me. So let's mute this and see the best moments. There aren't a lot. Best faces, I guess. It was just a mess. Like, it was worse than I thought it would be. If they were fact-checking, it would have been 4 hours. This is insane. Like, what is happening here? Where are we? Again, No One 2024. I have just presented you with the best reason to vote No One 2024. If you have mail-in ballots or whatever coming in, if you have a mail-in ballot, you get one. If you somehow are still registered and you get one, write in No One 2024. That's my agenda. That's who I'm working for. I mean, dude, I kind of want to play a song, but I don't want to waste any more of your time. So we'll just end it there, I guess, you know. Join me in the revolution. We deserve better. We can do this ourselves at this point. Like, who are we kidding? Thanks for watching. If you're still here, I applaud you. Please like it if you do, and comment, because I worked really fucking hard and I'm tired, and I barely got this out in time. Thank you for your time and for your viewership. tune in next time, which will have a plethora of information again. I'm not looking forward to putting this out and putting all those links in. It's a lot, but hopefully you appreciate it. Thank you, and bye.